It looks like a dungeon in here. I'm like redecorating. So
I mean, do you see my walls? I have nothing on the walls.
why don't you hang anything up?
See, here's the tea. I'm gonna be moving out. My parents
How
are
old are
moving
you?
out. I'm 22.
Okay,
Bitch
perfect.
is 22 and living at home. Yeah, I'm
It's
over
okay.
it.
Did you already like did you go to school?
Oh, I tried that shit twice in school right now. Third time's the charm. Let's see if I drop out again. I don't
Oh
know. But
my. What
yeah.
year are you?
What year am I? I don't even know. Technically,
Okay.
I might have enough credits to be like a sophomore.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm,
It'd be like that.
I have no idea. But yeah,
Fair.
I moved out like 2 years ago too. Like
Okay.
moved back. So yeah.
hmm It'd be
What
like
about
that.
thank
I mean, I got a fucking degree and then I moved back into with my parents. So it's like,
you?
what?
Yeah, how's that?
Um, it's fine. Everything is fine. I'm drinking some champagne to really no, it's fine. I had a job interview yesterday for
Oh, that's
like
fun.
a position at a college. So
Oh,
I never thought I would be like working at a college before, but
yeah.
we'll see. I don't know. All I do is interview. Like the podcasting has helped so much with interviews. Like I can talk
Oh,
anybody up. Like it's so easy.
yeah. Yeah, just basic conversation skills are kind of hard to come by. So like just building those up to the point where, you can actually have a conversation with somebody and not sound like an idiot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I know. I was like making the lady laugh like really hard, and I was like, okay, she's either laughing at me because like she thinks I'm like a complete imbecile or like so stupid, or she's
Yeah.
like likes me. So we'll
And sometimes you
see.
can kind of tell, like you can tell if they're like, oh, this guy's no, like not gonna make it, or if they like you.
Yeah, I
I,
was
I
like,
found that interviewing people has kind of helped me pick up on like social cues a little bit better.
yeah, exactly. I was
And
just like too
yeah.
nervous to like deal with any of it though. Like I could not comprehend anything that was going on. I was like sweating.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, wait, I'm so glad. Okay, I apologize. I haven't looked at this Google Doc much, but I was just writing down the Vito Russo test, and I'm so happy that you have it in here.
Really? Yeah. That was one of the things I really, really wanted to hit on, like the last time I was kind of half-ass planning this. We'll get into it. Like I'm not worried about having this all planned out.
My main thing is I don't like to ramble. I hate listening to podcasts that ramble, and I'm a very like as a I know it's like bad, but I'm like, okay, we gotta move things on. I don't know, because I'm a huge podcast fan. Like I listen to so many, and I can like tell when someone's rambling, and I'm like,
Mm.
babes, you're not making any sense right now. Like, let's move it
And
on.
that's what I've noticed. So what I've started to do, and it didn't used to be this way. I used to just leave people's entire phrases in
Mm,
as as they said it, and I've started just cutting them up and piecing together the conversations as I envision them.
yeah.
And I found that they work better.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because I've had some people that were like, you should just post the full conversation because it's more natural. And then it's like, if I edit a conversation to make it sound like how I want it to sound like just like good, like I don't know, you know what I mean? But
And I used to be that guy. I was like, let's just keep it fully authentic, but it's
yeah,
still an authentic conversation because it wasn't scripted, you know?
hmm
So it's
exactly.
still 100% authentic. It's just now the viewer is getting a more concise version of that. So you're
Yeah, you're not
giving,
wasting their time.
you're respecting the viewer. I think it was Logan Paul's editor. Well, what's his name? Hayden Hillier Smith. He
Mm,
made a really good video about that, and but yeah, totally like respecting the viewer is something that I've really had to learn as an editor when I've been piecing these together,
yeah.
especially with just audio. Like that's something you do. You don't really do a lot of like video. I think you uploaded like what the Lane Rogers one, and then there was one other one you have on your channel,
hmm
right? But
Yeah, I
for the
had
most
like a really cool, I was so annoyed. I was like in a studio for like two of them. Anyways, okay, let's stop bullshitting.
So where do we want to start? Do we want to just do the main podcast first and then worry about intros and outros afterwards so we know what we've talked about?
Sure. I don't care. I think we should just do a normal introduction and then
Yeah,
if you want, you can add your own intro after.
sounds good.
We
I'll
can
follow
just
your
like,
lead on that, and yeah, go for it.
okay. Do you want me to start it?
And yeah, sure. I mean, that was your idea to go for that way. So
Oh my God. Okay. Let me record it. I'm nervous. I always get so nervous. It's so annoying. Okay. Hey, gays and girls. This is Gavin here. Welcome back to Gays and Girls. And I have a guest on today. We're actually doing a collaboration project with both of our podcasts. And this is Zach Hathaway. Hello.
what's up, guys?
Zach, what are your pronouns?
He, him, his.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So today, as you may have seen, we've been like flooding our social medias with all of this, but we are coming on today to talk about LGBT representation in the film and TV and overall just like media and how we're representing and how queers are being represented today in 2021. And is it correct? Do we need more? And how can we fix it? Do you want to give a little intro about yourself and like the show?
Yeah, definitely. So, name's Zach. I do a little bit of like media stuff. I've been making videos for, my gosh, for like ever. But I started my show is called Coffee with Zach, and I just do it on like my YouTube channel. But it started when I was just I was just at like a coffee shop. I had a long layover. I was visiting a friend. I wanted to get out of the airport, so just went to a Starbucks, and a homeless guy walked in, asked if he could use my computer. I said, go for it. You know what? There's no harm in that. Well, that led to like one of the most memorable conversations of my life. We just sat and talked for like 3 hours on like the trades, education, jobs. I helped him with his resume. So it was just a really memorable conversation. And I was like, gosh, how can I just keep sharing these stories, and I don't know, how can I keep remembering these conversations that I have with my friends, family, whoever it might be. So the idea just came about to start recording my conversations with people. So that's what I've been doing ever since.
Oh,
So,
that's amazing to hear. How long ago? When did you like start the show or post your first video?
yeah, so that specific conversation was in February of, I want to say 2018. Honestly, the years kind of just blur together. It was about a year, maybe like 11 months after that. It was November of 2019. I took a trip out to LA to visit one of my good friends. His name is Mike Hammondtree. He's kind of like a social media influencer, kind of interesting dude. So I was like, oh, he would be a good first person to do this kind of thing with. So I was like, hey man, do you want to like record a conversation? He's like, yeah, let's do it. So we sat down on the roof of his apartment building at the time. Um, we filmed this thing. It was more of like an interview though. So it was
Mhm.
like less of a conversation. Like I'm on camera now doing them, but like before it was literally just like a talking head, like interview style thing. So
Yeah,
it's evolved over time.
yeah.
But that was November 2019, and I've just kind of been it's been slow going up until recently is when I really started taking it seriously, probably in
Yeah.
February of this year. But yeah.
Well, period. I also relate to the whole like first video and like how it's grown so much. A lot of people will be like, "Oh, I really want to start from the beginning," and I'm like, "The beginning there, like the beginning is the beginning, babes." And I just want you to realize like I have grown a lot,
Yep.
and please don't base your whole idea of the podcast off of that first episode. Like
Oh my gosh.
she's just there for
It was
fun.
so different, right?
Yeah.
I look at those, like the early ones. I call them like my early interviews. Um, and they're just so different. They're so cringe-worthy, just like from how I conducted them and conducted myself. Like for me, it was like a confidence thing. Like I didn't want to be on camera, and
Mm.
ugh, it was not a good time. Like
I think when I began podcasting, I really wanted to be like this, the gay call her daddy. And I was trying to be really vulgar and like funny and just like outlandish. But I realized like I'm a Pisces male. Like I can't do that. Like I can be funny, but I can't be that funny. And I also can't be that vulgar. And I don't even have that many stories. So it was really hard for me to keep up with it. So I've kind of like been trying to rebrand as like educational and like more, I don't know, bettering yourself through the lens of like being queer. So
Definitely. And the thing with like rebranding and all of the educational stuff, it can be hard to find the audience that enjoys the educational content, because I think people will naturally like the funny and the the stereotypical internet stuff that gets clicks and views and likes.
yeah,
But when you do find the audience that really enjoys authentic and wholesome and educational content, it's a really engaging audience. So the audience is always really engaged in the content, and um, it's a really good community that you can build that way versus
mm,
maybe not really, I don't know, a not so wholesome audience.
true.
Um,
Do you have like anything that kind of inspired this topic? I know that like we've been planning this for a little bit, and I'm sorry
yeah,
about last week. There was a little bit of a hurricane, but she's gone now. So
yeah. Since I've been making videos forever, I like movies. I'm always like analytical when I'm watching them, and being a part of the LGBTQ plus community, it's kind of hard not to notice when you feel represented in the movies you watch, when you don't feel represented, when you notice things that were done well,
mhm,
were not done well, that kind of thing. So when I'm watching movies, it's just something I'm always paying attention to, more so than I would say the average person. So that's kind of like a passion of mine. I wish I had more time to watch movies, though. I'll admit, I haven't seen a movie in forever. Like, I got to make time in my day to watch them. So I'm literally going to be going off of like prior movies I've watched. So
same.
kind of gonna wing it here, but I think the ones that I can talk about are good examples. So,
Mhm.
but I think if we're gonna like start talking about representation, we have to like really define what representation is, right? Like, there's good and bad representation, right? I think we can
Yeah.
all agree that like and there's probably like representation that's like in the middle too. Like, it's not just black or white, right? So
Mhm.
representation in general would be like good representation is like highlighting your group in a way that doesn't bring up the bad stereotypes that may be associated with your group.
I feel like I kind of portray good representation as like transparency, and like obviously there's going to be like little highlights of being queer and like how we live day to day. But I think in media, I guess is like for every single movie, everything is like highlighted and like everything is like kind of glamorized. But I think personally good representation is like a good balance between like being completely transparent and like the bad days, but like also like the good days of someone who's queer and like in the plot of a movie or a show. So that to me like is like what good representation is, and like maybe like bad representation is just like somebody who is like, I don't know, it's like fucking I don't know how to explain it. There's like no personality, but they're just like gay and like they just do like, the basic gay stereotypes. Like that would be like a bad representation in a show.
I guess I might contradict myself here because stereotypes do exist. And I guess
Yeah.
you would have to represent those stereotypes, but you
Yeah.
have to represent the stereotypes for what they are. You have to
Mm-hmm.
represent them accurately.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where, if not done correctly, that's where a lot of the controversy lies, right?
Yeah.
Um, and unfortunately, with how Hollywood likes to glamorize everything and
Mm-hmm.
take their liberties, that's where a lot of things get a little bit messy.
Do you want to bring up the Vito Russo test?
Yeah, so yeah, we can talk about that. So there's this organization, it's called GLAD. Um, they've been reporting on representation in film and TV for years. They developed something called the Russo test, and they named it after one of their founders. Basically, it examines how good or bad all of the films released by major studios, represent LGBTQ plus roles.
Yeah.
So to pass this test, is essentially the following have to be true. And I'm literally going to read right off the notes because I think they put it the best. A film has to contain a character that identifies as essentially a member of the LGBTQ plus community. So they got to be one of us. Outside of the community, they don't count.
And they have to be identified. There's no like leading up to it and like no finish. I'm not looking for queer baiting here. We're looking for someone that is openly gay. Maybe there's like a little bit of a marriage, a relationship, transparency, babes.
Yeah, and then that was right on their website too. So I don't know. I don't work for them. I don't know exactly what they look for. Like I'm not in the room when they're reviewing these movies, but I wish. Wouldn't that be so cool? Oh.
I mean, I didn't even know this was like a test. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, but like the character also can't be predominantly defined by their sexual orientation or gender identity. So in other words, they can't be placed in that role or that movie just for being, who they are. So there has to be more to them than just their sexual orientation or their gender identity.
Yeah.
So they have to have a person or purpose, basically. I think this one's a really important one. The LGBTQ character must be tied into the plot in such a way that their removal would have a significant effect. So if you take that character away, what happens to the plot? Nothing happens to the plot. What does that say? And I think there's a lot of movies that you can see they tried, but if you remove that character, the movie's the same. Nothing really happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like the gay best friend stereotype. Like all of these like main characters have these gay best friends, but like, if you took them out, like nothing really major would happen to the plot. So.
Exactly. And even TV shows, they're, and movies can't really do this as much, but TV shows, since they have to do like a cliffhanger every episode, and there's a lot of kind of intertwined plot lines. So you might have like 6 characters, and you've got 2 characters over here, 2 here, and 2 here. If these 2 have normal relationship, or I shouldn't use the word normal. That was bad of me, but for this context, if these 2 characters have, let's say, a straight relationship, if these 2 characters have a queer relationship, and these 2 over here have another straight relationship, if the 2 characters in the middle were removed, you still have 2 storylines that could move forward for those end of episode cliffhangers with that removal. So if those actors decided not to continue for like another season or something like that, they were removed, would it really matter? And that's the question that this Vito Russo test asks. So that's essentially what it is.
Did you look at the percentages of the movies that passed in the past year? Did you look at that? Because I have like 2 of them right here. So basically 8 of the 22 movies in the past year released by major companies or whatever studios, 8 of them passed out of the 22, which is a 36% rating, which I don't know. I guess I'm like ignorant to the fact, but at first glance I was like, wow, I was like 36%, like that's good. Like I was expecting worse, but I guess that was like one of the lowest ratings in the past like years. And I was like, okay, like what is a good rating look like? And in 2014 there was a 55% pass rating who passed the Vito Russo test. So that was literally like 7 years ago or something. So
it's been a while.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of crazy. Obviously it's weird, like why was 2014 so gay and then 2020 wasn't? But take this with a grain of salt and maybe do your own research. Preparing for this episode, I was listening to other podcasts about the same topic. I was like, okay, what are other people saying? Like, I just want to hear. And they brought up something really interesting. They said that TV shows and streaming service platforms who like create these TV shows have like a high rating of like LGBTQ plus in their cast. So I thought that was super interesting, which kind of makes a lot of sense, I guess, just because there's so many more TV shows compared to like the 22 movies released in the past year. And movies have like such a crunch time, and I'm sure like they cost so much fucking money compared to a TV show. So
Yeah, I think you're onto something there too. Especially with the budgets. I mean, some of these movies cost millions and millions of dollars to make. You can't make a multi-million dollar. I guess Hollywood would look at it as a mistake if it doesn't do well. Unfortunately, it's more of a risk to them to make movies on like queer stuff than it is for a TV show to do
yeah.
like a quick Netflix short or like a or something on their own
Mhm.
streaming platform where they can spend like $1 to $5 million and do this little cool little thing, and then their own community can come in and support the hell out of it. Yeah, so I think that might be one of the reasons why it's definitely more prominent
Yeah.
on like streaming services.
I thought it was pretty interesting because they brought up that same exact topic, and that's totally viable. But they were like, there was no black superheroes until like 2018 when Black Panther came out, and
Yeah.
we saw how well Black Panther did. So it's like, bring out a fucking gay Disney superhero or Marvel character or whatever, and we'll see what fucking happens. So I think it's definitely interesting to really take into account like Black Panther and how well that movie did.
Oh, definitely.
And so I thought that was really interesting.
Well, sometimes like I mean, you don't know what works until you try everything, right?
Yeah.
So maybe some of these studios just need to try everything. Don't knock until you try it, right?
Yeah. Exactly. And obviously they're like everyone is telling the same fucking story. I'm tired of like all of these like remake shows and movies. So come out with a gay superhero. We're ready for it. We're waiting
Yeah.
for it. We're patiently waiting. I'm ready to go to the movies again, and I'm not trying to watch some stupid heterosexual
Yeah. When are they
relationship.
going to do a gay bachelor?
Babes, we know why. We know why. That would just be literally like 20 people being like, not really, he's not that cute. This guy's cuter. So they would just like leave the show.
That'd be rough.
But hey, you know what? That could produce multiple reruns of the show with the
It would,
creative relationships.
yeah. Oh gosh. It wouldn't it wouldn't last long enough for them to film the entire season. So some of the statistics in that GLAD report though are just mind-boggling. Like you wouldn't expect them, kind of like what you were saying, like you expected it to be um were you expecting that to be
I
like
was
a
expecting it to be lower than 36%. I thought 36% was a good amount.
yeah.
But I guess just because I'm expecting the worst, I don't know. Is that fucked up?
I don't know, you tell me. But yeah, like
What are some of your good examples of representation,
yeah.
and like why do you think those are good examples? I'm seeing the Fosters, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah.
I've
I,
never heard of Rocket Man. Sorry.
oh really?
No.
So do we not want to talk about Rocket Man?
No, I mean, please talk about whatever you want.
Okay, yeah. We'll start with the Fosters. I think that was really really popular for a while. A lot of the gays like that one.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, at least I don't know if it caused any controversy, but I really really like that show. I was really into it for a while. I binge watched it over a summer.
I
Um,
think we all did.
yeah. So actually, I binge watched it until I ran out of episodes, and I think they were finishing up like season 5 or something. So I was like, every week, but for like 5 more weeks. Come on, guys, let's hurry it up. But they not only did they tackle like all of our queer social issues, they tackled a lot of other social issues too. So
Yeah.
I think that was something that was unique about that show. They found a way to just address everything that had to be addressed at the time. That not, I mean, I think they started that show in 2013 or 2015.
It's
So
definitely an older show. I would definitely feel like 2013 sounds good.
yeah, it sounds about right. We'll go with that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But 2013 was maybe a little bit before a lot of those social issues became really well talked about.
I mean, maybe it was 2014 because in 2014, 55% of everything passed the veto Russo test. So,
Yeah,
you know?
never know. Um, but like I just feel like it was a little bit ahead of its time in terms of
Yeah.
how how well talked about everything was.
Because
So
the main characters were adopted. The father was like a drug addict, right? Or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, or their mother was a drug addict or something, and she kept trying to like get back with them through the show or whatever.
Yeah.
They had two moms. They had a
It
gay
was a
son.
multiracial couple.
Oh
Yes, it
yeah,
was good.
gosh, there was just all sorts of stuff. And later on, um, there was a trans relationship played by a trans actor. Um, gosh, I haven't watched it in a while. So I mean, there's got to
No,
be
I know.
stuff, but now I want to watch it again.
But it was like a coming of age show. And it really focused on like hold on. I focused on coming of age and how the children dealt with like different obstacles in their life. So that was like kind of like the storyline.
And it just seemed like every time they tackled one obstacle, it's like, when are they going to run out of obstacles? But here they go and find another one that is absolutely relevant.
Hmm.
Not
I
only
mean,
to
it's just
what
like daily life.
yeah, but like it wasn't just relevant to what they were going through in the show. I'm sure it resonated with a lot of other people, and like translating that to the LGBTQ community, I think it resonated with a lot of people. But just like one thing I want to mention is like all of the intimacy in the show, and like the romance. I don't know. It just came through as very authentic and genuine.
I think the storyline really like pushed the plot, and I think the characters and like what they
Yeah,
represented like made it better.
I would agree. Yeah, but for TV though, like there have
True.
definitely been movies that have had better moments of intimacy. Uh,
Yeah,
but for a TV show,
it did good.
like think about you. For those of us who binge watched it, it may have moved a little bit quick because you were literally sitting there watching one after another. But if you haven't seen it for like a whole week and you come back to when it moves a little bit slower, I think it works.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my opinion.
No, yeah, I get that. Can
um,
you explain? Okay, this is
yeah,
so bad. I've never watched Glee, but I did watch Perks of Being a Wallflower.
yeah, I haven't seen Glee either. That was just my recommendation.
What is your other, or yeah, what is your other one? Because I can go next.
I mean, in Perks of Being a Wallflower, I would say that one like more in the middle. So we talked about good representation, bad representation. Perks of Being a Wallflower, I think it fell in the middle to me because, like, yeah, there was a queer relationship, but I don't think it was good or bad representation. It's like I think it started out being good, but then towards the end, like I think that relationship between Patrick and Brad, like it just got really abusive, and I think the way they showed the abuse may have been a little bit much, like a little bit
Hmm.
traumatized. I don't know if that was captured in the best light, you know.
Yeah, I sadly cannot comment. I do not remember Brad and Patrick.
I had to do my research. I haven't seen it in like a few months, and
Who was the main character that was the one with long black hair?
the long black hair.
Who did like the musical and like dressed up?
I think that was Patrick.
Okay, okay.
No, Charlie was the younger one, I believe.
Hmm.
He was the one who like was having like the mental problems. Like his aunt got killed or his mother got killed.
That
Somebody
was the main
killed.
character,
Yeah, he was
right?
a character.
Okay.
That
So
was kind of a fail.
sorry. Okay, but have you ever seen Pose?
Pose? Like
You've
just pose.
have you ever seen the show Pose?
No. Should I have
Okay.
pose?
Oh my God. Whoever is listening to this and watching this, how are you going to bring up queer representation and modern media and not have seen Pose? What?
Am I gonna get
Okay.
hate comments?
I'm just saying, okay, so basically Pose was based in like the 90s and 80s in New York City. it was kind of like based around like the houses and the balls and the drag queens, but it really focused in on like the homeless drag queens, the homeless queer youth who were kicked out because of like religious
Oh,
reasons. Are you looking it up and seeing it? Have you seen it?
I've seen the posters for it.
Oh my God, I cannot believe you've never seen this show. I think this is the pinnacle representation of 2020 to 2021 queer representation because it only basically highlights like Mexican, Spanish queer youth, Black queer youth, Black trans women, Black drag queens, and then there's obviously like gays. And this is all during the HIV epidemic. So like
Right.
it was just,
Yeah.
it is like up in your face, like you're in the show. They're kind of just going along with these storylines of all these different youth and like it's kind of like they kind of like make their own like families and they create these like homes and they're called houses. So there's like the house of La Beja, there's like a house of like blah blah blah. And that show made me cry so many times because it
Yeah.
really is it was transparent. I think that is a main thing for me, like when watching shows and honestly reading media, reading the news, listening to other people, I want transparency and that show showed it. It wasn't a documentary, it was like historical fiction.
Mhm.
And if you enjoyed Pose, you would really enjoy Burning. Paris is Burning, which is a documentary of the same exact thing. Basically, it's basically just a documentary in the 80s and 90s of the house, the dance, ballroom culture, and the HIV epidemic. And basically, they follow around these like main character. I think her name is Paris, and she was a trans woman who like had to sell her body to make meat. She was doing sex work. And then she would do sex work during the day and then like do the ballrooms at night. And it was like queer representation. She sadly ended up dying. And I think that was at the end of the show. Sorry, I just ruined it for so many people. But like those two entities, the show and the documentary is like 10 out of 10. Like honestly, like that is where people should be if they want to include queer stories they should be reviewing and analyzing how they represented queer stories in those two shows because it was astronomical, like it was amazing, like they literally covered every topic. It was insane.
So they had multiple like storylines. I'm talking about in Pose. So it's
Yeah.
like the ones where there's a lot of different intertwined storylines.
Yeah, so I would definitely say there was
I
like
like stuff
maybe
like that.
5 main storylines.
Oh wow.
And I think there's now like 4 seasons. I think they're working on the fourth or something. Oh, and may I add, they have like it's a historical cast because like it's like the most amount of like queer and trans Black actors who are cast to play these roles. Definitely gotta watch Pose. You gotta show me you crying because it's amazing. But it's true. Like it just truly it. Okay, let me go back to the representation part. It's transparent in like there was like one episode like where they would have a really shitty day, like their sugar daddy dropped them, like they got beat up or something, and then there was like another episode where they like won a ballroom, like they won a show, they like got this new outfit, they're like dating this new guy, and it was just like a really nice representation. Like queer life isn't all glamorous. We're not all dancing to Lady Gaga and frolicking down the street. It's like there's shit that's happening, there's bills to be paid, and like they made that shit transparent. And that is why I really like that show. And I've also like never really learned about ballroom culture or really the HIV epidemic. So it was really interesting to watch that. And it was really interesting to watch Pose and then watch Paris is Burning because Paris is Burning was a like a documentary and it wasn't as glamorized as Pose was. Because Pose made like the ballroom culture look insane, but like Paris is Burning showed what it really was like. And I was like, oh.
You just mentioned that like this that wasn't as glamorized, right?
Paris is Burning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paris is Burning basically like the whole ballroom culture, like they would be dancing and like lip syncing. That's where you get your modern drag race from, is like people putting on outfits. They had to fulfill these categories, and Paris is Burning like it's like dimly lit, like kind of like bright, low key, and like the music was like out of like a little stereo box, and there was obviously like a person like rating and like judges.
Yeah.
But, like it was just like the outfits, like that. It was really like the outfits and the lighting for me, like. But in Pose, like the outfits and like the lighting was insane. Like it was dark. It looked like a huge club, but like in Paris is Burning, it was like this a shoebox and like one light, and then there was like a rinky dinky stereo. But that was the reality of it. So it was interesting to even see the comparison of Paris is Burning to Pose, but they were the same story.
Yeah, so I would say that like kind of like comparing that to one that's glamorized, but in a way that still represents everything about like queer culture, but in an accurate way would be like Rocket Man.
Okay.
Like,
What is Rocket Man about?
so do you know Elton John? The
Yes.
singer? Yeah. So it's like a fantasy musical about his life and like the redemption story.
Okay.
But basically it portrays all of like his relationships and everything, in like what, because you got to remember that was set back when he was kind of growing up,
Mm-hmm.
so way back in like, I don't know, the 60s, 70s, 80s, kind of whenever that was.
Yeah.
um, so a little bit before our time, but also back before things were like, I don't know, like accepted more.
Yeah.
So
Gay marriage and being homosexual is still like listed as a disease in
right,
America.
yeah.
So
So that's the time this movie was set in, and they represented everything well. Like it was, I don't know, I just thought things were glamorized, but in a way that still represented everything accurately. And another thing, this kind of brings up the controversy we haven't even talked about yet, is should straight actors be playing gay roles? Okay. And Rocket Man is kind of an exception because they had to find somebody who, number one, kind of looked like Elton John enough to be able to play him in a movie,
mm-hmm.
can emulate and kind of mimic his personality, can act, because when you're doing like a Hollywood movie, you can't just pull someone off the street and be like, hey, sing like Elton John, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. You have to have Hollywood experience, and
Yeah.
um, Taron Egerton had acting experience before. He'd actually worked with Elton John before too, like briefly in Kingsman. Um, and then I feel like to add another layer of complexity on that by saying, oh, by the way, you have to be gay too. Like, I feel like that would be giving like an impossible layer of complexity to casting directors. Like there would be almost
Yeah.
no talent pool to pick from there. Um, Also, I feel like if Elton John okayed it and said, okay, I'm picking you to play, me in my movie, he gets
Yeah,
the
I'm sure
pass.
he was definitely an integral part in choosing who fucking played him.
Yeah,
So
probably. He probably was like an executive producer on the film.
so you moved on to the next part of these notes into should straight actors play straight roles, and I
Yeah.
definitely think we obviously see this all the fucking time. So um I actually had someone today. Okay, my personal bias is I believe that queer people should be fulfilling queer roles. I think it's just like more money in the bank for our community. It's good
Yeah.
representation. They know this true storyline, and it honestly is like once you like okay, so like let's say a straight actor did an amazing job, but like then when you learn that they're actually straight after the movie, it kind of discredits it for you. I don't know, it like kind of ruins the
I always,
fantasy of it all.
yeah, see, oh, I see this. I'm torn because like I used to think that probably up until probably around the time where I started. I don't want to say like getting into the industry because it's not like I work in Hollywood, but until I started making like some more connections with people who are a little bit closer to the industry than I am,
Yeah.
like, and I started realizing like what they go through as far as like being in casting rooms and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. Like they understand that there really isn't that level of like discrimination that goes on. I mean, sometimes there definitely is. Like,
Yeah.
it's disgusting, the kind of discrimination that can go on.
I don't know. I feel like I'm
Like,
definitely
I'm
going
torn.
to contradict everything that you said. I feel like once you watch Pose and you are able to see how many queer and trans people were hired to fulfill those roles, no matter where they came from, like they did an amazing job, like as actors and actresses. And I definitely think like anything is possible. And if you truly want to fulfill these storylines that your writer has written, fucking, I don't know, like pull some other cards. You don't have to look into these like whitewashed casting rooms for these roles. Like I feel like we're in a new era of like social media. Like we can easily connect casting to movies. Like I think it's definitely
Yeah.
doable to find
Well,
queer people to fulfill these like future queer roles.
and that's the thing. It's a lot easier now than it was to,
Yeah.
and there are a lot more. I think there's just a lot more queer actors now too.
Yeah.
Jim Parsons, he's the guy who played Sheldon on The Big Bang Theory. He did an interview. I don't know who it was with or what it was. I just found it on YouTube and I watched it like kind of in preparation for this. But he said he was recently a part of like a play. I don't remember the name of the place or the play. It was like, oh, it was The Boys in the Band. It was like
Okay.
play
Oh
on
my
boys.
God. So, did you watch that?
No, I hadn't seen it. I didn't know what it was. I had never heard of it before until I watched that
Totally
movie,
for.
and now it's on my list. But
Yeah.
like, um, but he said like it was just a different feeling being around like a group of like what was it, like 8 other
Yeah.
gay actors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Did
there's a
he
lot.
say that they were all gay?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I believe so. Don't quote me
Good.
on that. It was his
I
interview.
would believe it. Do you know like the basis of that movie?
I don't. I hadn't read a synopsis of it or anything like that yet.
So the boys were boys in the band, right?
Yeah.
I watched it this past fall. It's like on Netflix. Like it's so easy to like watch, but it's basically like a one scene movie. Like you know like how there's like those like did you ever watch that one with Zendaya recently and her husband in the show? It's like that one scene thing, like that one style, like the one scene style shoot movies. Anyways, I actually really enjoyed those types of movies. I think it was really interesting because like in those movies you can really sense the tension and like the storyline, and it's honestly just like one long basic fight or conversation. But the boys in the band is basically like it's like someone's birthday and they invite like all of the friends. It's like 8 gay guys come in and they're all like older. They're like definitely like mid 30s, 40s, 50s, and it's just like like obviously shit happens and like the Sheldon, right? Wait, Jim Parsons. Okay, sorry. I've never watched Big Bang Theory either.
Same thing. Yeah.
But Jim was the main character and he was the pot stirrer in the movie. And he
Yeah.
basically like my thing is I could literally feel the tension in that movie. I thought like the acting was phenomenal. Like there was just like so much layered storylines and the characters were so well like put together. Like that's why I completely believe that all of those characters were gay because like gay tension in a room, like in real life, I'm telling you, like if you put 8 gay guys in one room, the tension is
Yeah.
high for some reason. So that is why like I really enjoyed that fucking movie.
Yeah, and I think that's where it works. So that's why personally I feel like it should be left up to the casting director. So like if you're working on a project like that,
Yeah.
or I'm assuming it was like that for Pose, like there's no way they could have done something probably like Pose with straight actors.
Yeah, no.
I haven't
It would
seen
have
it.
been embarrassing.
Yeah, but like that's why I just feel like it should be like whoever's right for the role, because in some cases like Rocket Man, like I don't know who else would have done it. Maybe there's somebody out there. Like there
Yeah.
probably is.
I mean,
Who knows?
that's definitely up for debate, but I definitely
Yeah.
do feel like I don't feel like there's a lot. I don't think there's many excuses to not be hiring queer people for queer roles. I get the whole Elton John thing. That makes total sense. You want someone who looks like the motherfucker. Get that.
Yeah.
But, and can sing like him or
Mhm.
close too. But I definitely think like future stories, like there's no excuses. There's no excuse. Pose paved the way, babes. Do you want to talk about stereotypes? Oh my god, this fucking creaky chair.
We haven't really, like, addressed the stereotypes. So, like, we've been talking a lot about these stereotypes and everything, but, like, we haven't really said what they are. So, like, what kind of stereotypes do people in the community go through? So, like, actors in casting rooms.
Yeah, I mean, okay, do you want me to start?
Yeah, yeah. Or, like, what stereotypes do you notice when you're, like, watching
I
watching?
definitely feel like there is a few stereotypes. There's obviously like the really preppy one. There's the preppy one, the
Yeah.
gay best friend, the balls to the walls, like on hard drugs, blah blah blah. Like basically like the plot of the movie or something is like you have to save him or something.
Yeah.
And then I definitely think like those are the main three. Like there's definitely like the one like balls to the wall one is like interesting because I feel like that as a straight writer or something like trying to portray like this gay character as like Christian people might see gay people like these like they're going to hell, they're all on drugs, they're pedophiles. Like obviously it's not fucking true, but like sometimes that's how our gay representation is shown through media, and it's obviously not true. What about you?
I think there's definitely like the comedic relief. So that happens a lot. I know somebody who's like a musical theater actor, and that happens a lot on stage, apparently. So not quite in like film, but I bet for like movie musicals, that's probably common. Um,
How would you define comedic relief?
so like being the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
So I guess you mentioned being the sidekick or like the gay best friend. That could kind of go hand in hand, but maybe not too, because like I feel like a character could be like a gay best friend, but not necessarily be like a funny gay best friend, but definitely more of like a supporting role.
Yeah,
But
I
there's
get that.
other characters that are more of just like a comedic relief, like funny.
What is a good stereotype that you would like to see in media and representation in movies and TV shows?
Good stereotypes. Well, I guess, I mean, because here's the thing. Supporting roles are necessary. You have to have supporting roles because not everybody can be the main character. But supporting roles that aren't comedic reliefs or just the gay best friend or everything that we've talked about previously, but supporting
Yeah,
roles that actually support the main character. That's what I would
yeah,
like to see. So
that's good.
supporting roles with purpose.
Did you ever watch Sabrina, like the Sabrina Spinner, like witch hunt? Like she's like a witch and it's on Netflix.
Witch trial thing. Oh God.
Yeah, it's like recently. It's like recently. Have you not seen it?
No, oh, we were just talking about it at work, and I was like kind of playing along, like I had heard of it. I was like, "What is this?" No.
It's honestly really good, and like that you highlighted something really well. Like there is a supporting actor and they actually come out as trans like halfway through the show. And then this actor like the character ends up like dating like this like elf person, which kind of like might represent someone who's like non-binary. Like I remember like there was something interesting about the pronouns in like the actor's partner. So I thought that
Yeah.
was really interesting because it was like this like whole supporting actor and like they had this whole like other storyline and like they were trans and like dating someone who was like non-binary. I was like, wow, okay, like this witch movie is really going off right now. Like
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? That just reminded me. The trans actor in The Fosters, I think his name is Elliot Fletcher.
mm,
That was a supporting role that I don't know if that was the intention, but I think it was just supposed to be maybe for a couple of like episodes and
yeah,
stuck around. But that was a role that grew into like a relationship and like a really good friendship and a really good purposeful supporting role on the show.
yeah.
So that's another good example of that. That was a good side tangent. I didn't bring that up, but
That's good.
yeah, that's what I want to see. More supporting roles with purpose.
Do you want to get into some questions?
Yeah. Oh yeah, let's start answering some of these.
Honestly, a lot of people had something to say.
Nobody sent in good examples of representation. Everybody had something bad to say.
Okay, so here is this is like a very basic one, but someone asked like they would really like to start seeing a person who belongs to the LGBTQ plus community who is a part of the plot,
Mhm.
is an active role, and like they're obviously like identified as gay, but like that is their like not their redeeming factor or characteristic in the show.
Yeah.
And honestly, like you brought whoever commented that, like you brought up 100% good point, and
Oh yeah.
I really enjoyed that one. And then also like we just spoke upon this, but is the representation that is it right? Like, are they representing something that is truthful, or they glamorize something, or are they not glamorizing it enough? Are they making it seem like dreadful and scary? I was like watching these like random like YouTube videos this morning,
Mhm.
like preparing for the episode, and like there was like this like one show, or they were kind of like talking about in like the 100, like all of these like random fucking shows, like how this like gay character would like finally like I'm gay or blah blah blah, like here's my girlfriend, or they would kiss somebody and then like they would die in the next scene, and it was like what the fuck. You cannot do that, like you
No.
cannot just like what it, but it kind of like
With people like that.
it showed, and it like the it just kind of showed like they came out as gay, and then the next scene that they're killed off, and
Mhm.
it kind of shows like all gays are going to hell or something
Yeah,
like
like
that. Like,
stop treating us like disposable characters.
mhm,
Mhm.
exactly. You can't just like use us as a token for 1 second, and then the next you're gone.
Yeah, like an urban appeal token. I was gonna say, were there any more questions? These are fun.
I mean, one of the questions was the straight actors getting queer roles.
I figured that would come up. I was like, no, somebody's gonna.
Honestly, this first one right here says too much white. We need some fag super spies in action movies too. Period. I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring up basically it's like the fetishization of black men in media, and like how they always have to be like this like, and same thing with Asian men. These like really bulky, muscly, like sweaty, coconut oil chested like
Yeah.
men that are like these like hot boyfriends or whatever. Like, stop. I want a little twink black man or twink Asian man. But not even, or doesn't even have to be twink. Does it? I don't know. But I definitely think this person brought up a great point, like too much white. I think there's definitely a lot of whitewashing.
Mhm.
And the main point about like having representation, okay, yes, the hurdle was having queer representation in modern media and mainstream media, but now we need to start like diffusing it and not getting rid of white gay characters, but it's
Yeah.
just like, come on, there's obviously black people in many people's lives, like this is like we need to stop whitewashing all these storylines and putting some fucking flavor in here, because it's getting quite boring. I'm getting quite bored of Chad, getting quite bored of David, and I'm I don't know, I definitely think
Well, we've
it's
seen it all before. That's the thing.
yeah, exactly, we've seen
Like,
it
what's
all
new
before.
here?
And that exactly right. Like queer representation is giving a whole new streamline of media and people and money to make and shows to build and stories to create and put on the big screen. And that is why like this shouldn't be such a hurdle to combat,
Yeah,
to
like you
get
just
over.
mentioned Pose. Like that sounds new. Like I haven't seen it before. Like I haven't seen anything like that before. So I'm gonna go watch it because it seems new. I don't want to go watch Chad and David because that.
And the cool thing about Pose was no, honestly, like I think there's a handful of white characters. It wasn't like a whitewashed show. It was all like Spanish, Asian, black, trans people. Like it was like the representation was insane. Like, and that is why like I said like that show like has created such a high standard, because they did fulfill it with all queer people. They did fulfill it with all trans people to fill those roles, and
Yeah.
they executed it great. Like the main character just got nominated for an Emmy last night. So like, sorry, I can't speak.
Yeah, I
But yeah.
mean, I like seeing that. I like seeing when like actors and actresses and directors and these productions get nominated for the awards too, because that means they're getting the recognition for it too.
Yeah.
Because it's all fun and games until it wins some recognition, and then the public sees that and they're like, oh, so this was actually good. Now we should like it, right?
Yeah.
So like nobody likes something until it wins an Oscar, and then everybody goes and watches it, and they're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this is so great. And then it's
You
great.
remember,
It's 50
did you
years.
ever watch, did you ever watch Schitt's Creek?
No, that's another one. Oh my gosh,
Okay.
you're you're gonna hate me.
Sorry. Okay, maybe I watch a lot of shows. Coming to I can't on oh my
Watch
god,
The
I'm so
Office.
stupid. The fucking main character is gay. Like I'm literally like, oh, queer representation in Schitt's Creek. I will say Schitt's Creek didn't have a lot of representation of diversity. There was maybe a handful of like people of color. So I think like that is a critique on Schitt's Creek, but Schitt's Creek was amazing. Like
Yeah.
so
I'll
good.
ooh, I'll talk about bad representation on The Office. The Office didn't have that many like gay moments, but the ones it did have, like, it was just all stereotypes, not good ones. So, shit on them. It was still
But
a funny show though. Like, I still laughed, but I was like, should I really be laughing at that?
you're like, haha, wait, no.
Yeah.
Let me
Like
analyze
that was
this.
funny, but was it really funny? Like now I don't think some of those things are funny. Like 10, 12 years ago when it came out,
Yeah.
it like it got the pass, but I don't think that could fly anymore.
Yeah, no, I think there was a lot of things in that show that wouldn't fly anymore. And I think that's interesting because it was a funny show at the time, but like now we would all be like,
Oh yeah,
cancel the show right now.
no way. Same with like Family Guy. That's another one, or like The Simpsons. Like all of those.
Mm.
Yeah,
Funny story, my mom like never let me watch The Simpsons or
really.
Family Guy. Like I was never allowed to watch that.
There was that. I discovered them, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Or what is the little one with like little people? What is that fucking called? And they're like little people, and it's like on Comedy Central. And he has that funny voice.
Oh, I don't.
South Park, isn't
Oh,
that?
that's the one. Yeah,
Wasn't allowed to watch that either.
for good reason. Shitty shows. I don't know.
So, do you want to talk about the outro?
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like this episode, be sure to leave a like on the video. Let us know what your good and bad examples of representation in film, media, stage production, whatever it might be are. We want to know. We want your feedback. Leave us nice reviews on Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. Do all the YouTube stuff, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It really helps. There's going to be a link in the description for some show notes, links, resources, all of that good stuff. I'm also going to link to Gavin's channel and podcast. Everything you could possibly need is going to be down below. So check it out. Thank you so much for being here and having this wonderful conversation. Everything we talked about was really, really insightful. I think we needed to talk about some of this. So
Yeah.
a good conversation. Yeah.
I definitely think the show kind of like what we talked about in this episode was really eye-opening to me because I just feel like we're in this like queer bubble that we like to put ourselves in, and we're rarely like kind of like looking out of it and like not really seeing anything like non-queer because like that's what we're comfortable with. We like to put ourselves in our own little communities, and I think this episode kind of really highlighted like here are some good examples. We've gone far. We've done a few lengths, but there's many lengths to go, and I am so excited to see like what comes out in the next few years, and I will be proudly supporting the shows that I really enjoy but denouncing the ones I don't on Twitter. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Well, thank you again so much for being here. Remember to pop that queer bubble, pop that subscribe button, and as always, thank you so much for watching. Good night.
Good night, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Peace out.
All right, that was good. All right, now I'm gonna go get drunk.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding. No, I'm not. But yeah, this is what I'm wearing out. My Zara thrifted shirt, my Converse.
I think it works. It works.
Yeah.